digital lost and stolen reporting of passports and online passport appointment booking. As I say, I'm Glasgow based. Two of my teams are based in Glasgow. We're starting to establish a digital hub within Glasgow, and I have one team in London at the moment. We're going to talk to, in fact, I'll let Mark introduce himself first, and then I'll give you a bit of overview. Sorry, Mark.
Hi, yes, I'm Mark Prince. I'm a digital service manager for the civil registration product family within HMPO. And that service family is looking at products and services that support the registration of birth, deaths and marriages, and how we share those registrations wider with government and with citizens as well. And I'm formerly of Elaine's product family as well, and was part of the team that developed the passport application service from its inception in about 2015 through to 2019.
So today we're going to talk about the evolution of the online passport application service. Mark's going to talk about the journey to delivering MVP and the challenges and what we went through. And then I'm going to come back in and talk a bit about our organisation and how we're changing, and a few examples of what we've changed in the last year, and an overview of some of our ways of working. So I'll just pass back to you, Mark.
Brilliant, thank you. Right, so as Elaine said, I'm going to take us through kind of where we started from and kind of what our service looked like previously, all the way through to what we developed and how it evolved over that period from 2014 through to 2019. So before we came along, we had two ways to apply, and one of them was a paper application form. And that paper form, that meant that we, as an organisation and from a user perspective as well, there were a number of challenges with that service. So being a paper-based process meant that we were a paper-based organisation. And so we were in the business of moving paper around the country and moving paper around offices. And that's slow and very expensive. And as a result of that kind of service and the way we worked, we often had high volumes of calls from users, and if there was kind of mistakes in applications, or we had to write out to people. So there was lots of feedback loops where we had to engage with users through writing back to them and them calling us, again, very expensive. And just as a kind of a way to apply, we had a 4-page paper application form that came with a 26-page guidance booklet. And so users had a lot to read through there to understand how to apply it to us. And that meant they made mistakes, naturally. So there was lots of errors with applications.
We'll leave a blank for what the actual task is.
Someone need to go mute, thanks. And so 25% of applications that we received had errors on them. And so that would mean that we'd have to write out to users and delay their application and so on. And because applying for a passport is, it's an important thing, it's an important document, we often saw that users would pick up 2 or 3 application forms from the post office. And in case they made a mistake, you had to get the letters within the box, because we used optical character recognition to scan that information, and you had to sign within the box and so on. So people were always anxious about making mistakes. So then we had to spend lots more money producing application forms that were users than we ever received back. And then lastly, the time that we were looking at this, it coincided with a huge shift in society, where people were moving towards online banking and online shopping, and users had this expectation of an Amazon type experience. So there was a big opportunity kind of on the horizon there for us. And we did actually have an online application service that was in place for a number of years, and it was kind of online within quotation marks. So at the end, you used to fill in all your details online, but at the end you printed off a declaration form and had to sign that and post that off to us. And as well, you had to include paper photographs with that. So I think we're all familiar with the kind of small few centimeters by a few centimeters passport photograph. And the site had quite poor accessibility. These were in the days before government digital service standards and adhering to those. And there was an earlier iteration of this website that you can see on the screen now, where the green start button was on the right-hand side. And actually, if you adjusted the window, you lost the button. It didn't automatically kind of rotate down to the bottom. So not very user-friendly. And again, there was a kind of opportunity where our supplier contract was ending about the same time as well. So, and then the last part of that was, and you may have experienced this yourself, having to get somebody to sign the back of your photograph for you, or indeed you might have been a counter signature for somebody else. And so this is where we needed somebody to confirm your identity. So you'd write on the back of the photo that the image was a true likeness of the person applying for the photograph. And that was needed for about 40% of applications. So quite a significant volume if you think we're receiving between 6 and 7 million passport applications a year. So several million of applications required this. And so that meant as somebody applying for a passport, you had to go and either visit somebody you knew in order to do this, or post it. So lots of processes going on there. And so in 2014, and this coincided with kind of the GDS being formed and the Digital Exemplar program, we kicked off a huge program of work in our organization to create a kind of digital application service for passports. And so we started off with a kind of the simplest user journey, or the simplest user type that we could, and we actually launched in 2015. And over the years up through to 2019, we iterated and delivered several different features and application types over that time, and completed our MVP, which meant we could accept every single application type online to apply for the passport. And I say it's a fully digital service. It's not quite. We still require you to send us some paper documents if that's applicable for your application. So you have to send us your old passport, and you have to send us, for example, a birth certificate if that's required as part of your application. So apologies, we couldn't make it fully online. There were some challenges and requirements that meant that we still need to do that today. So we are as fully as online as we possibly can be. And then, so in order to support that, we needed to move away from paper photographs. So again, paper photographs was all part of that, shifting paper around offices and around the country that we wanted to move away from. And that was a huge kind of cultural change, not least for users, but also for the organizations and the companies that provided those that provided those paper photographs. So there was a huge ingrained culture about you get a paper photograph from a booth or from from Snappy Snaps and those kind of organizations. And we were changing that. So we wanted users to we gave users the ability rather to take a photograph themselves and upload it as part of their application. And that's a huge enabler for us. We don't have to deal with the paper photographs anymore. But that was a huge challenge for users because, as I'm sure we're all familiar, passport photos have to conform to certain standards. So you've got to have a plain background, you can't have anything on your head, and kind of anything obstructing your face, and so on. So we spent thousands of hours of user research and design effort in order to help users to get a digital photograph that meets the standards. And so we provided a user guide, for example, about how to do that in your own home or wherever else you could take a photograph. And then to complement that, because of the kind of, we had a photo industry that was set up for decades to support the kind of production of paper photographs. So we worked with them in order to move away from paper to digital. And we have an integrated service today for any photo provider, if they choose to integrate with our service so that they can take a photograph for somebody. And then as a user, you're able to take a code away, go and sit on our service, type that code in, and we pull the photograph from that provider as part of your application. And so that had a kind of twofold benefit. It's helped the organizations and the businesses that have been doing this for decades, as well as solves a user need. So through our research, there were loads of users that couldn't get a photograph that would meet the service standards, and so actually giving them the opportunity to go to a kind of professional in order to get this was a huge enabler for us and for users to be able to get photographs that met the standards as well. And that's been a really successful partnership. And then that bit I talked about, counter signature, we still needed to do that. And so you can't sign the back of a photograph anymore. So then we had to look at how could we solve that problem online. So we have a kind of secondary service that sits behind the passport application service. And so it's not everybody needs to do this, but we invite users to nominate somebody that can come in and confirm their identity, and we have that interaction with the person who's doing that. And so that allows us to meet our kind of requirements and policy intent about having somebody confirm identity and a user journey that works for people. And then going back to that kind of paper application form and that 26-page documents, depending on your application type, we require certain documents from applicants in order to support their application. So typically it's a birth certificate or adoption certificate or marriage certificate or kind of other proofs of address and so on. And users had to wade through 6 tables in order to figure out kind of they needed one thing from set A and 2 things from set B and so on, and users would struggle with that, and there would be errors, and we'd have to write back to them, and applications would take much longer. And so what we've done is actually built a service where, based on your application type and the answers that you provide to us, we tailor the documents list to you, so succinct, to the point, and it lets you know what you need to send to us. And as a result, users get it right first time, and we don't have to write out to them, and their applications aren't delayed. And then so once you've applied, we have a portal that we allow users to come back to, and it kind of goes back to that kind of Amazon, what we expect from a digital and online service is the ability to track your order as such. So we have a portal where users can come in and can manage their application, and we provide kind of next steps, and we provide application history, so they can see what's happened to their application, where it's been, and they know what's happening next. And then to complement that, we send users in real time updates about what's happening with their application. Either that's kind of where it's at in the processes, or actually you need to do something. So we've got so far, you need to send us something, you need to get in contact with us. So it's been a huge benefit and a way to kind of communicate with our users through the portal, through the apps, through the text messages, and through email, and all of those things complement each other and line up. And we're not kind of just one part of this kind of end-to-end service. So the application service on the front end is what most users interact with and see and kind of feel with our service. But actually, there's a whole kind of machine behind that goes into reviewing an application, approving it, writing out to users if they need to, and actually printing and posting that passport back to them. So we're kind of the one cog in a huge kind of end-to-end service. And so and as a result of that kind of end-to-end service, most passports are returned within 2 weeks of applying. There's definitely variations in there depending on the application type and kind of COVID, as with most businesses. It has a huge impact on our ability to do that, but normal times, normal service levels, it's about 2 weeks end to end to get a passport. Don't quote me on that totally though. And as we've gone through that journey, we've kind of done, as I mentioned, lots of user testing and user like surveys and analytics and other mechanisms to understand what the user needs are, how we're meeting those, and for us to be able to get feedback to kind of iterate on in that in the future. And it's not a perfect service. So we know there's definitely things we can always improve on, but we've had some fantastic feedback from users, and it seems to be a service that they really love and is really working for them. So this is Lauren Curry, a design council trustee, and she said it was a great example about how to make a complex process simple, quick and easy to understand. then Tom Reed, the Chief Digital Officer at MOJ. So somebody who knows a bit about identity, used the confirming identity service and was really impressed with it. And again, we get lots of really positive feedback from users, which is fantastic and really nice to see and hear. But as I say, there's always improvements to be made. So we're always looking at the feedback, and we have multiple mechanisms in order to be able to understand if we're still meeting user needs, what the problems are, in order to be able to constantly improve it and iterate our service. Definitely not a once and done. We have the teams that are kind of long-lived in order to be able to make sure that our service is up to scratch and keeps meeting user needs. And what's also really, really nice as well is that we've been kind of recognised a number of times. In 2019, when we completed MVP, and we won three awards, so 2 kind of private public sector awards and 1 civil service awards, which was fantastic. So we won the UK IT Industry Digital Transformation Project of the Year, a civil service award for digital projects, and a paperless award as well, which was absolutely fantastic to be recognised in that way as well. It's particularly for a government service, which is up against multiple other private sectors and other fantastic examples of digital transformation as well. So that's me. I'll hand over to Elaine now to pick up.
Thanks, Mark. So as well as transforming the application process for customers, the changes that Mark just talked about there have enabled us to really transform the business as well. So in terms of digital growth, so the number of customers moving from applying on paper to a full application online, you can see the amazing growth that we've had as an organisation, starting very small in June 16, right up to now we've consistently got a level of around 90% digital take-up. In terms of what that means as well around how we engage with customers, so customers can log into tracking when they apply online and getting up and self-serve in terms of finding out what's happening with their application. We also engage with them via email and SMS. So in terms of the amount of resource that we need to be able to handle calls coming into us, you can imagine it's quite different. When we look at 1 in 12 customers who apply in paper will call us, but it's 1 in 160 online customers will call us. So pretty amazing benefits to have been realised by the business. So I'm just going to run through a wee bit about how we're changing as an organisation. We're learning all of the time, but significant changes in how we structure our business. So our ambition at HMPO is to be a modern, efficient digital business, and we're becoming more and more service-centric. So we're starting to move away from what we had before, which was a supplier and project delivery model, to more service centricity. So within the digital teams themselves, we have enduring multidisciplinary teams. So the teams that deliver MVP will go on and be enduring teams at the heart of continuous improvement of the service. But what's really important to stress about the success of and how strong the service is and how we continue to iterate and improve the service is the collaboration. And we call that the quartet, and that's right from strategy all the way through into delivery and continuous improvement. And it's really important that we work in partnership with operational service managers, technical design authority, business design authority, and also with customer assurance. So it's that quartet, if you like, that really adds to the success and means that we have a strong team working together. So we never let the service get stale. We're always looking and questioning best practice, always listening and looking at user expectations as they constantly change. And we're always looking to improve the service, but actually looking at feedback, looking at analytics, really close to the data on the service, and looking at the business drivers. So really working with operational service managers to understand any pain that they're feeling and quickly enable us to react to support that. So I'll just give you a flavour of just a few. It's difficult to pick out what's interesting for people outside of HMPO and give you a flavour of what we've been working on. But I guess, we've talked about MVP, we've got these great enduring teams, and then suddenly, like many of you, but like all of you listening in, the world around us changed and we had to change as an organisation. March 2020, lockdown happened. And we very quickly had to adapt and transform the way that we were working. My teams all work at home at the moment. We'll be starting to move to some of the time in the office, but actually working at home has proved to be really successful, certainly for my team. Productivity is up 16% based on comparable time before that. Really making use of collaborative working with video conferencing and tools like Mural. It's really helped us make that happen. And I talked about that partnership with business architecture, technical architecture, with customer assurance and with operational service managers. Having the in-house capability of that enduring product team and that can quickly move with agility and really adapt to problems and helps resolve issues within the business. So COVID happening to us is a good example of how things changed overnight for us. And actually, as an organisation, we really had to change. Customers needing a passport quickly and having a potential urgent and compassionate need to travel. That didn't stop, but in fact, our counters had to close to protect staff and to protect customers. So we had to think about a way of how we could quickly prioritise and handle urgent and compassionate applications that normally customers would be turning up to our counters and would have the support there face to face. So working within the quartet, what we did is we managed to design and deliver and go live with a service to handle urgent and compassionate needs applications within a week. So it's pretty amazing turnaround actually. It shows you the benefits of that in-house capability working with that quartet. Just thinking about how the world's changed and customer expectations have really changed over that time. We've implemented Qt. So that's a way we put that in front of the online passport application service, and it sits in the background and springs into action if we hit a certain level of applications coming in. And what it does is it helps us manage the incoming traffic to the service, but also helps us manage that customer experience that they're not just seeing the service is unavailable at the moment. And actually, customers' expectations have really changed while we've been in lockdown. You'll have seen this. Many of you have maybe seen a tool like this on Boots when you're trying to get a flu vaccination, or if you're trying to get a PlayStation or something like that online. Customers' expectations are changing. They expect things like this. Mark, can you just move me on? Thank you. Also talked about, this is just a small change, but just talking about working in partnership, and we work regularly in engagement with the quartet, so working with business architecture, technical architecture, and operational service management. And one of the things that they came back to us and said was that they were seeing a much higher than expected number of customers requesting Braille stickers. That actually, I'm not going to give too much away in the background, but it causes a fair amount of pain in the background in terms of effort and the process to handle applications that require a Braille sticker. And actually, good old Mumsnet as well put out a message. It's actually a way, if you click the Braille sticker, you'll get your passport quicker. So that was one of the things that operational service managers raised with us in one of our regular catch-ups with them. And you can see here, that's the design before. Customers were ticking that they want the Braille sticker as part of that journey. We actually found, quite interestingly enough, when we dug into the data on that one, the number of customers ticking there was hugely higher within Hong Kong applicants as well. They tended to pick the 50 pager as well and going for the Braille sticker. They just wanted everything. I want the best and I want everything that you've got to offer. So we did user research on this to try and think, how do we drive the demand down for this, where it's actually not required. Clearly, if someone does require a Braille sticker and they do have a genuine need, we want to be able to service that request. Mark, just on the next slide, you can see actually what we changed it to, and really it was a bit more of a declaration, you know, I'm blind or I'm visually impaired and I need a Braille sticker. And actually by changing that to the new design, we saw a 35% reduction in Braille sticker requests. Sounds like a small thing, but actually the pain within the business that was causing, it was the benefits stacked up to be able to make that change, and we could do it fairly quickly. Now, opt-in cookies, I'm sure many of you on here who work within a digital service will have had to think about this question. From our point of view, we really rely heavily, I've talked about analytics and data, and we really, you know, study this closely, and it's a huge asset for us in how we understand how customers are using our service, and helps us build evidence for making changes and prioritising changes that need to be made. So we were very worried, like most organisations, that we would have lots of customers opting out and we would lose that data, the richness of it. We implemented, you see the board before, so we implemented the GDS standard cookies template. And actually, like many other, I think many other organisations that implemented, we were quite scared about how much we were going to lose out there. I think it was as low as 40% take up that people were seeing. And then after that, I've got a nice graph on the next slide that you can see the impact of that. You can see that really dropping when we introduced it. Then we did some customer testing. If we just flick back, and what we did was we changed where the banner was. So if you see, it sat above the black bar, and we found that customers were unconsciously just kind of ignoring it. Whereas when we moved it down below the bar, we found that customers were really, they saw it as just another part of the journey. We're acknowledging it and reading it and taking the correct, the relevant action that they felt that they wanted to take. So I think you can see from there, we're so glad actually to make that improvement and get that rich data and continue with that, because it's a huge asset for everything that we're doing in terms of continuous improvement and being able to monitor our the usage of our service effectively. Okay, just like give you an overview of how busy we are. You know, I think we've had over 350 live releases since March 2020. It's been a really busy period, so things have not slowed down for us. Just in terms of quality of what we produce within my product family, I think it's something like 17% in terms of bugs, small bugs found within the code. So it's really high quality in terms of what we're delivering, but still at a fast pace. And just to sort of finish off here, what I wanted to do is give you an overview of just our ways of working. So, and how we prioritise what we're working on within the product family. So we hold a backlog, a long-term backlog, where any proposed changes are held. It doesn't need to be a sort of gold and polished kind of input there, a high level description of the outcome we'd like to achieve. And we maintain that as a living and breathing backlog there. Feedback input into that comes from right across the business as well as within the team. We run quarterly backlog sessions, which are engaged closely across the business. I think the last one that we had, it was even online, 52 attendees from across the business. And we refine that over time. In terms of what we promote from the long-term backlog into the near-term backlog, looking at the roadmap for the year, we run them through a funnel. And if they make it through the funnel, as in they match the near-term goals, then we look at them, they progress to the near-term backlog. We're able to size the near-term backlog, and from there put together the jigsaw roadmap, of which takes into account business need dates, dependencies, and the fit to the teams. I've actually got 3 development teams across the product family. So hopefully that gives you, oh, and I should mention within the quarterly backlog sessions, which are really well attended, what we tend to do is they're co-hosted by the quartet. We get business architecture, technical architecture, operational service management, all to input. And what we tend to do as well, especially at the beginning of a year, is look at, from an operational service management viewpoint, the top 5 pain that they are feeling within the business and things that they'd like to promote. Also from product management team, and also from customer assurance, just so that we're really listening to what's going on from customers and from across the business, and that's really reflected within the backlog that's promoted and the changes that we make. So hopefully that just gives you a bit of an overview, a taste of how we work and the structure of HMPO and how we're changing. And here's the cheeky wee advert at the end. So yeah, I mentioned at the beginning, I'm Glasgow based. I think at the moment we have 4 teams based out of Glasgow across digital services. We're looking to expand that. But actually, we have wider job roles as well as that's at wider to the digital service teams. And at the moment, we've got Agile business analysts roles that are being advertised on civil service jobs. So a shameless plug there. But anyone interested in digital service roles or the roles that are currently on offer, well, Mark and I will share our contact details if you want to chat. And be happy to have a chat through with anything you want to talk to us about, and we can put you in touch with the head of profession. I think there's just one amendment there as well, because I think we should have updated the slide deck there just to reflect the current turnaround times. We have operational service colleagues out of the business at the moment helping in other areas of the home office, and what we have is a longer turnaround time. So in normal times it'll be around 3 weeks as the service level. Actually, we're seeing it significantly longer than there, and you'll see some messaging there that you can allow up to 10 weeks, and that's just because of the issues that we're seeing there at the moment. So message to anyone that's thinking about travel in the next year: get your application in. With people not applying for their passport during lockdown, so the usual renewal cycle that people have not been getting their applications in means that we're like to see really high demand next year as more and more people think about travel again. So we will see the application turnaround times increase just naturally with the high demand that's expected in. So just a bit of a caveat there, a bit of advice.
Thank you very much to Mark and Elaine. That was a really good talk, very informative. Does anyone have any questions for Mark or Elaine? You will have to bring yourself off mute because we muted you during the talk.
Yes, I've got a question. My name's Kirsty. I'm a senior product manager with the Rosa Service Organisation. You mentioned the challenges with accessibility, and you talked about the Braille sticker. I'm just wondering if you could talk a bit more about how you met the challenges, the original challenges with accessibility.
So around accessibility in general, or specifically around the Braille sticker?
In general, because you mentioned at the start there were a number of challenges. Yeah, thanks.
So as part of a government service, we adhere to the Government Digital Service Standards, GDS service standards. So there's 14 of those, and it covers kind of all aspects of a digital service. And several elements of that kind of pertain to accessibility and meeting WCAG. And so we have to go through a number of assessments in order to be able to publish a service on gov.uk as a government department and link it back to the central gov.uk pages. So that's all set out kind of what we do, and we do vigorous kind of testing around our pages with our analysts about whether that they're meeting those requirements. And we don't do it just because we have to, and because the service assessments and WCAG, we do it to meet our users' needs. And so we spend a lot of time understanding what our user needs are, how different kind of groups interact with our services, and so that we do continuous testing with lots of different user groups. So we'll always include kind of with each round kind of extra accessibility needs or assisted digital needs to make sure that we're constantly meeting the requirements for those. So it's kind of from two angles we approach it, and the Braille sticker is one aspect of the finished product, making that physically within your passport, providing that as a service in there as well. So there's the website and the product that we produce as well at the end. So Elaine,
so
anything else?
No, I was just going to say we have regular accessibility audits, and what that does is, always produces feedback for us, and what we do is we prioritise that work. It gets very high priority. We want to be able to resolve those, and if you see on we publish our accessibility statements, you'll see the changes we hope to make, and what we do is we set ourselves a deadline as well for making those changes.
And do you do those audits in-house then, or do you get
No,
a
it's a third
consultant?
party that comes in independently to do that. We don't check our own homework.
No, can I ask who the consultant is?
I have a bill from them, but I can't remember. But if you
I'll reach out
contact
to
my
you.
email address,
Yep.
yeah, I can give you that, no problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, it looks like that is us then. So again, thank you to Mark and Elaine. Again, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording there.